Now we finally have an update on the drowning death of Malcolm-Jamal Warner. Now, according to ABC7, they stated that Malcolm-Jamal Warner had drowned while he was on vacation in Costa Rica. Now, the article goes on to say that Warner had drowned off the coast of Costa Rica on Sunday.
Life, it's fragile, and in the blink of an eye,
you never know.
You never know. So speaking of legacy, what do you hope that your legacy is going to be?
There is part of me that I will be able to leave this earth, knowing and people knowing that I was a good person.
Malcolm-Jamal Warner, the face millions knew as Theo Huxtable, America's eldest son, was gone in an instant. On July 20th, 2025, Hollywood was rocked to its core when news broke that Warner had drowned during a trip to Costa Rica. The headlines spread like wildfire and fans were left in disbelief. But the real shock came after the funeral, when a secret archive he had guarded for years was finally opened. Inside that vault wasn't just old stage props or keepsakes, it was a time capsule of hidden truths. Never before seen family photos, heartfelt handwritten letters, and eerie clues hinting at a life far different from the polished image the world thought they knew. And buried deep in those archives was a surprise so jaw-dropping, it has people questioning everything they believed about him. From the streets of Jersey City to one of the most famous roles in TV history, Malcolm's journey was always seen as a golden rise. But these uncovered files show the roots of his story, not just as an actor, but as a symbol of resilience born from struggle. Malcolm-Jamal Warner was born on August 18, 1970, right in the thick of America's social and cultural upheaval. His very name carried power. Malcolm, after Malcolm X, the fearless civil rights leader, and Jamal, inspired by jazz legend Ahmad Jamal. It was as if destiny had already written his path, strength mixed with artistry, revolution tied to rhythm. His mother, Pamela Warner, was the driving force behind his future. She raised him alone after a split from his father, balancing the weight of survival with the dream of something bigger. More than just a mom, Pamela was his foundation, his biggest believer, and even his first manager. She spotted the spark in Malcolm early on, watching him come alive in the arts as a little boy, only 7 or 8 years old, already showing the raw talent that would one day capture America's heart. From the start, Malcolm wasn't just another kid watching TV. He was studying it. He'd stand in front of the mirror for hours, copying characters, memorizing lines word for word, like he already knew the screen was his destiny. His mom, Pamela, saw the fire and wasted no time. First, acting classes, then enrollment in New York's elite professional children's school, a breeding ground for future stars. By 1979, only 9 years old, Malcolm was already stacking up credits. Children's theater, commercials, anything that put him in front of the camera. He learned how to stare straight into the lens without blinking, how to twist his voice into any role, sharpening the very skills that would one day explode into a role no one else could touch. That moment came in 1984. NBC was hunting for the perfect team to play Theodore Theo Huxtable in a brand new sitcom, The Cosby Show. More than 200 kids auditioned, but 13-year-old Malcolm walked in and snatched the role from all of them. Overnight, he became the face of a generation, America's eldest son, awkward but lovable and a symbol of Black excellence on primetime TV. The success was instant. The show shot straight to #1 in the Nielsen ratings, dominating American households. And the spotlight on Malcolm only got brighter. In 1986, at just 16, he was nominated for an Emmy for Outstanding Supporting Actor, a jaw-dropping honor for someone still in high school. But while the world saw the fame, few understood the grind. 39 weeks a year of non-stop filming while juggling school books in between takes. And yet, Malcolm refused to let the cameras define all of him. Away from the sitcom set, he was sneaking into New York jazz clubs, soaking up wisdom from seasoned musicians, learning bass, vibing with jazz, funk, and R&B. His teenage years were a split reality, the regular Jersey kid and the Hollywood star, constantly reminded by his mother's words, "Don't let the spotlight blind you. Remember who you are and where you come from." Those were the words that kept Malcolm grounded while so many other child stars crashed under fame. And when the secret archive was finally opened, people found proof of that foundation everywhere. A snapshot of little Malcolm clutching a bass guitar almost bigger than him. a worn ticket stub from an Jamal concert in 1982 that his mom took him to, and a scribbled note Pamela slipped into his pocket right before his life-changing audition in 1984. No matter the outcome, you've already made me proud. From those Jersey City beginnings in 1970, Malcolm-Jamal Warner walked straight into America's living rooms as Theo Huxtable and into millions of childhood memories. But these early keepsakes weren't just nostalgic souvenirs. They revealed why his legacy stirs so much emotion even today. Because his rise wasn't about luck, it was about resilience, discipline, and a mother's relentless push to keep her son from losing himself in Hollywood's chaos. The turning point was 1984, the day Malcolm became the heart of The Cosby Show. For 8 straight seasons, from September 20th, 1984 to April 30th, 1992, he lived as Theo in front of the world. That's 197 episodes, 8 years, and countless colorful sweaters. While the show dominated Nielsen ratings and rewrote TV history, audiences literally watched him grow up from awkward middle schooler to college student, every milestone preserved on screen. But fame came with a dangerous catch. On one side, Theo Huxtable made Malcolm a household name, earned him financial security, and even brought an Emmy nomination at just 16. On the other side, it became a cage. Malcolm knew the risk. The longer he stayed Theo, the harder it would be to escape the shadow of that role. 8 years of embodying one character meant the world might never let him be anyone else. And while fans saw the charm, behind the scenes, Malcolm was already calculating his next move, determined not to be trapped forever as just America's eldest son. That's why, even at the height of the Cosby Show craze, Malcolm wasn't content just being Theo. While the world saw him as the Huxtable son, he was already testing his power behind the scenes, directing episodes, hosting youth specials, and dipping into projects outside the sitcom mold. It was his way of saying, I won't be locked in a box. When the series ended in 1992, most would have expected him to ride the fame wave and coast. But Warner didn't rest. He reinvented. By 1996, he was back with a whole new identity in the sitcom Malcolm and Eddie alongside Eddie Griffin. For 4 seasons, from 96 to 2000, the show highlighted his natural comedic rhythm and that sharp chemistry with Griffin that made audiences tune in week after week. Warner wasn't just acting here, he was directing too, flexing his eye for timing and storytelling, proving he could thrive both in front of and behind the camera. But Malcolm refused to stay chained to comedy. The 2000s showed his dramatic side emerging. From the futuristic series Jeremiah, 2002 to 2004, to Read Between the Lines, 2011, to crime dramas like Major Crimes in 2015. Each step was him peeling away Theo's shadow, carving out range Hollywood didn't expect him to have. And then came his other lifelong obsession, music. From childhood, the bass was his weapon of choice, and with his band Miles Long, he dove into jazz and spoken word. He dropped albums, performed live, and even scored the kind of recognition actors rarely cross into. In 2015, he stunned the industry by teaming up with Robert Glasper and Layla Hathaway to win a Grammy for Best Traditional R&B Performance with Jesus Children. That was Malcolm proving he wasn't just an actor who played music, he was a real musician, validated by peers at the top of the game. His TV presence never slowed down either. By 2018, Warner was commanding the screen again, this time as Dr. A.J. Austin on Fox's The Resident. A blunt, sharp-tongued, sometimes prickly surgeon. Worlds away from sweet Theo Huxtable, the role showed a whole new generation that Malcolm-Jamal Warner had completely rewritten his story. Actor, director, producer, musician, podcaster, he wasn't just surviving Hollywood, he was conquering it on his own terms. By 2024, Malcolm had found yet another stage, his own podcast, where he spoke raw and unfiltered about culture, art, and society. Fans tuned in to hear wisdom, not sound bites. But the most haunting moment came with his final upload, an episode posted on Instagram on July 18th, 2025, just 2 days before his shocking death. That feed has now transformed into a digital memorial wall, overflowing with tributes, heartbreak, and disbelief from across the globe. Over 4 decades, Malcolm shattered the child star curse and proved he was no one-hit wonder. He stacked over 30 film and TV credits, directed hit sitcom episodes, dropped albums, snagged a Grammy, and carved out a career that was diverse, respected, and unshakably his own. From Theo Huxtable to Dr. A.J. Austin, from sitcoms to soul music, his arc wasn't survival, it was reinvention on repeat. And the newly unlocked archive tells that story with receipts, literally. Tucked inside were old film contracts, rare behind-the-scenes photos from Malcolm and Eddie, even the Grammy ticket from his 2015 win. Each artifact painted a picture of a career built on both dazzling highs and grueling challenges, proof that nothing came easy. Yet he made it look effortless. But the discoveries didn't stop at nostalgia. The archive also revealed just how much Malcolm had built in quiet, a financial empire that stunned many fans. By 2025, estimates placed his net worth at around $6 million, a fortune earned not from scandals or quick grabs, but from decades of consistent work in film, TV, and music. Back in the Cosby Show days, his paycheck per episode grew steadily each season, especially as the show reigned supreme on Nielsen charts. With 197 episodes aired between 1984 and 1992, Warner had secured a foundation most child stars only dreamed of. And unlike so many of his peers, he managed to keep it intact. The Cosby Show didn't just give Malcolm fame, it gave him stability. That paycheck became the backbone for his future, funding the projects he truly cared about. And when the sitcom ended, the money didn't dry up. He locked down lucrative contracts with Malcolm and Eddie, Read Between the Lines, The Resident, and more. On top of that, the reruns and streaming deals kept bringing in royalties year after year, padding his bank account long after the camera stopped rolling. Music was another revenue stream, and Malcolm knew how to make it count. His albums with his band Miles Long, plus live performances, added steady income. But the real payday came with his collaborations alongside heavyweights like Robert Glasper and Lala Hathaway. That 2015 Grammy win wasn't just a trophy. It sent his performance fees soaring, cementing his reputation not just as an actor who dabbled in music, but as a musician respected by the industry's elite. Inside the secret archive, the financial trail came alive. Yellowed contracts signed with studios, payment statements neatly stacked, even property deeds showing his Los Angeles home and a quiet East Coast apartment where he could slip away from Hollywood when life got too loud. Insiders whispered about his side investments too, independent films and grassroots arts programs he supported, all pointing to a man who wanted to leave more behind than just reruns. But what shocked people most was how he lived. Despite the millions, there were no flashy mansions splashed in magazines, no fleets of exotic cars parked outside velvet rope clubs. Malcolm kept it modest, private, focused on family and craft. Fans praised his discipline, rare for someone who hit fame so young. And then came the twist nobody expected. Hidden within those financial files was another story. One Warner had deliberately kept locked away, a secret wife, a child the public never knew about. Suddenly, the archive wasn't just a tribute to his career, it was a revelation of the intensely private life he fought to protect while carrying the crushing weight of Hollywood on his back. Piece by piece, the archive revealed a man far more complex than the world ever imagined. Tucked between old film contracts, scribbled music notes, and rare behind-the-scenes snapshots was a story Malcolm-Jamal Warner never meant for the cameras to tell. His life had been a constant balancing act, showing just enough to keep his career alive while fiercely protecting the rest. His family, his struggles, even the moments when the pressure nearly broke him. These weren't wild tabloid scandals. They were deeper than that. They were choices, values, a code of silence Malcolm lived by. He drew an unshakable line between the stage and real life, refusing to let the spotlight swallow his private world. And at the very center of that silence sat his most guarded truth, a secret marriage. It all began in 2015 when Malcolm was introduced, through a mutual friend, to a lawyer living in Connecticut. No Hollywood glitz, no calculations, just two people building trust. Over time, friendship turned into something deeper. On his podcast, Hot and Bothered, Malcolm once admitted, "I laid it all out, told her everything. Then one day I asked, 'What do you think about getting married?' That confession, wasn't for publicity. It was a rare crack in his armor, a glimpse of his heart. By 2016 or 2017, they had tied the knot in absolute secrecy. No press release, no glossy wedding photos, no social media hype. For Malcolm, it wasn't about playing hide and seek with paparazzi. It was about giving his family the one thing fame could never buy: an ordinary life. Then came 2017, the birth of their daughter. On July 2nd, Warner quietly posted a single black and white photo of himself cradling his newborn with the caption, "Peaceful time with family takes on a whole new meaning." It was one of the rarest glimpses into the world he spent decades shielding, a moment so simple yet so powerful, now frozen in memory, forever layered with new meaning after his untimely death. After marriage, Malcolm kept his family life locked away like a treasure chest only he held the key to. Once in a while, he'd drop a line about a cozy weekend at home or mention the importance of teaching his daughter through presence, but never names, never faces. For a man who had lived under the glare of cameras since 13, when he first became Theo Huxtable in 1984, this silence wasn't shyness. It was strategy. His family was off limits, no exceptions. But before settling down, his love life was no stranger to headlines and heartbreak. His first great love was Michelle Thomas, his Cosby Show co-star who played Justine Phillips. They dated from 1988 into the early 90s, staying close even after breaking up. When Michelle was tragically taken by stomach cancer in 1998, Warner never left her side. Years later, he wrote on Instagram, "If there was ever an angel who walked amongst us mere mortals, this woman was it." It wasn't just nostalgia. It was raw grief carved into words. Then came Karen Melina White, another Cosby Show alum. From 2000 to 2007, the two were locked in a 7-year relationship that sparked constant marriage rumors. Karen pushed back, calling it a deep, steady love, but one without papers or public vows. His final relationship before marriage was his most high-profile, male with Oscar winner Regina King. Though they'd known each other since the 1980s, they only began dating in 2011. For a while, they were Hollywood's golden couple, even living together, but then, on Valentine's Day 2013, everything shattered. Regina confessed she was blindsided by the split. One day in love, the next day over. When Warner sent flowers with the note, "I still love you," she tossed them straight into the trash. Publicly, she admitted she was heartbroken. Malcolm, in his usual fashion, said nothing. No interviews, no drama, just silence. Looking back now, that silence feels like a pattern, an unspoken rule Malcolm lived by. He ended relationships with dignity, never letting them rot into tabloid scandals. But beneath the quiet, the pressure was suffocating. He later confessed there were times he hated playing Theo, proof that even while he carried America's love, he was fighting battles no one ever saw. Malcolm's greatest fear wasn't bad scripts, it was being trapped as Theo forever. With 197 episodes airing between 1984 and 1992, The Cosby Show made him America's big brother. But that image became a double-edged sword, a shadow so heavy it threatened to smother every role that came after. Instead of complaining, Malcolm fought back through action. He directed episodes of The Cosby Show itself, headlined Malcolm and Eddie from 1996 to 2000, and later reinvented himself with sharp dramatic roles in Read, Between the Lines, Major Crimes, and eventually as Dr. A.J. Austin in The Resident starting in 2018, a character nothing like Theo, proof he could break free. But then came the shockwave that shook Hollywood, the Bill Cosby scandal. The once beloved Huxtable family image collapsed in public memory, tainted beyond repair. Warner had no connection to the crimes, yet he couldn't escape the fallout. In one interview, he admitted, "It's heartbreaking to see something once so pure in people's hearts become tarnished." But true to his nature, Malcolm didn't go on a media crusade. He stayed quiet, let his craft do the talking, and poured his pain into music. Music had always been his sanctuary. On bass with his band Miles Long or in collaborations, Malcolm found freedom the cameras couldn't touch. The pinnacle came in 2015 when he teamed with Robert Glasper and Layla Hathaway to win a Grammy for Jesus Children. That win wasn't about nostalgia. It was validation that he wasn't just a former child star dipping into music, but a serious artist whose peers respected him. And under all that pressure, Warner built his own survival system. Rule number 1, control the narrative. In interviews, he spoke passionately about art and work, but when asked about family, he kept it vague. Always my wife, always my daughter, never names. Rule number 2, protect his rhythm. During the resident shoot, he demanded weekends be reserved for family, no unnecessary events, no Hollywood circus. It was his shield against the fame that once nearly consumed him. The final layer of Malcolm's strategy for survival was clear. He took back control of his own story. In 2024, he launched the podcast Not All Hood, where he finally spoke on his own terms, diving into culture, art, and society without letting the media twist his words. For once, it wasn't filtered, it wasn't sensationalized, it was pure Malcolm. But then came the chilling twist. On July 18th, 2025, he posted a fresh episode on Instagram. Just 2 days later, on July 20th, tragedy struck. Malcolm-Jamal Warner drowned at Playa Coco Beach, Costa Rica, at only 54 years old. What was supposed to be a family getaway turned fatal. His daughter was pulled to safety in time, but Malcolm was caught in the grip of a rip current that didn't let go. Death came sudden, violent, and devastating. His fans were left stunned while Hollywood itself fell silent. And when that curtain of privacy finally dropped for good, people realized the secrets he kept weren't for shock value. They were shields. Shields to protect his family from the suffocating spotlight. Shields to keep past loves respected instead of exploited. Shields to give himself a rare breath in an industry that devours people whole. That's why when the secret archive was opened, the discoveries hit so hard. The unseen family photos, the handwritten letters to his wife, the scribbled reminders telling himself, protect what matters most. Don't let the spotlight blind you. These weren't props. They were evidence of how he lived, fiercely guarding love and peace in a world that thrives on invasion. When the news broke, Costa Rica's national police confirmed the details. Warner had been on vacation with his wife and daughter in the Caribbean region. Playa Coco was postcard perfect, but also infamous for its deadly rip currents. And on that morning, those waters claimed him, America's eldest son, gone in an instant, leaving behind unanswered questions and a silence that felt heavier than any role he ever played. The weather was perfect that morning. Clear skies, soft waves, the kind of day that tricks you into thinking nothing could go wrong. Witnesses recalled seeing Malcolm step into the water with his daughter, laughing, playing close to shore, and then, in seconds, everything changed. A rip current ripped through the calm, dragging them both out. Lifeguards and locals rushed in. His daughter was pulled to safety, but Malcolm was swept farther and farther away. When rescuers finally reached him, his heart had already stopped. They worked desperately on the sand and again on the ride to the hospital, but there was nothing more to be done. The coroner later confirmed what so many feared. Cause of death, drowning from asphyxiation. No foul play, no injuries, just a merciless ocean current that gave no warning. A family source insisted he went quickly, without suffering, a small sliver of comfort in a sea of devastation. But the shock was too big and questions kept bubbling. Fans asked how someone like Malcolm, once athletic, still in good shape, known for discipline, couldn't fight his way free. Others pointed to the haunting timing. Just 2 days earlier, he was vibrant, posting his latest podcast, already mapping out plans for the next season. How could life end so suddenly? Online speculation spun out of control. Some whispered about hidden health issues. Others fixated on the eerie coincidence of the secret archive being unlocked right after his death. Conspiracy forums swirled with wild claims. Whispers that maybe Malcolm was protecting something too powerful and that this was no accident at all. His family, though, fought to silence the noise. His mother, Pamela Warner, released a statement cutting through the rumors. "My son passed away in an unexpected accident. There is no mystery beyond the grief of those left behind. Still, the combination of 3 undeniable facts, the sudden death, the immediate unveiling of a secret archive, and a life so carefully hidden, made his final hours feel haunting. Not a criminal mystery, but an emotional one that refuses to let go. How could a man so full of life, planning new projects just days before, vanish beneath the waves in minutes?" His funeral came quickly. A private service in the U.S., closed to cameras, attended only by family and a handful of close friends. No media circus, no glossy photos, just silence, tears, and stories shared about a man remembered for his warmth, his devotion to family, and his unshakable grind in the industry. But while the service stayed small, the tributes online became massive. His social media pages turned into digital memorials, flooded with hundreds of thousands of messages. Fans leaving their last goodbyes, posting old clips, favorite quotes, and childhood memories tied to Theo Huxtable. For a moment, it seemed like closure. And then, the archive cracked open. Inside were handwritten letters, unseen family photos, and deeply personal notes. Instead of comfort, these sparked fresh waves of conspiracy theories. The whispers got louder. What else was Malcolm hiding? Within days, the internet lit up. YouTube deep dives, Reddit threads, and pop culture podcasts all started spinning theories. At first, the focus was grief, but soon the conversation shifted, fueled by the revelation that his secret archive was opened almost immediately after his funeral. One camp became convinced the archive held bombshells about the Cosby Show, stories tied to the period before and after the Bill Cosby scandal that Malcolm never dared to reveal publicly. They latched onto his past comments about feeling heartbroken over the Huxtable legacy's collapse and speculated he might have left behind testimonies or receipts never seen by the world. Another theory zoomed in on his private life. Since Warner's marriage and child were kept secret, some fans imagined the archive contained proof, photos, letters, maybe even details that could rewrite his personal story entirely. Tabloid-style outlets jumped on the frenzy, splashing blurry leaks and supposed documents from the archive across headlines. Yet when examined closely, none of it could be traced to a credible source. Still, the damage was done. Speculation was out of control, and Malcolm-Jamal Warner's death was no longer just a tragedy. It was being recast as a mystery. The most sensational theories took things even further, whispering that Malcolm had been preparing to drop a documentary or memoir that would rip the curtain off Hollywood's darker side. To believers, his sudden death felt too coincidental to ignore. Fueling the suspicion was his podcast, Not All Hood, launched in 2024, where in recent episodes he hinted at untold stories he wanted to reveal. To conspiracy hunters, that was the smoking gun. Malcolm was silenced before he could speak. But there were problems with that theory. First, the official Costa Rican coroner's report left no room for foul play. The cause was crystal clear: accidental drowning, no signs of struggle, no intoxicants in his system. Second, his family, especially his mother, Pamela Warner, shut down the rumors immediately, calling them baseless and cruel, insisting there was no mystery behind his passing, only heartbreak. Even investigative journalists stepped in to cut through the noise. Outlets like People, AP News, and Variety combed through the story and confirmed the archive was nothing more than what it appeared to be: a collection of personal keepsakes, family photos, handwritten love letters, old film contracts, music notes, memorabilia from his most iconic roles. No hidden bombshells, no smoking files waiting to blow Hollywood wide open. But in today's world, facts don't spread like fire. Rumors do. And once the conspiracy theories caught traction online, no correction could fully pull them back. For countless fans, especially those who grew up watching The Cosby Show, Warner wasn't just an actor. He was a piece of their childhood, their nostalgia, their sense of comfort. When someone woven that deeply into collective memory dies suddenly, grief can twist into disbelief. And clinging to conspiracy theories, no matter how wild, becomes a way of avoiding the one truth hardest to accept: he was really gone. In the end, the greatest mystery Malcolm-Jamal Warner left behind wasn't hidden in a vault of papers or in whispers of untold stories. It was in the way he lived, quietly, deliberately, always guarding what mattered most. He refused the spectacle, choosing instead to build a legacy of art, love, and discipline that outlived the spotlight. His passing may have sparked rumors and questions, but maybe the real answer was always in front of us. Some truths are meant to be protected, not exposed. Malcolm-Jamal Warner may no longer be here, but his legacy is far bigger than Theo Huxtable, bigger than the music, bigger than the awards. It's the message he carried with him every step of the way. Love deeply, live kindly, and protect what matters most at all costs. From the blinding lights of Hollywood to the quiet moments away from the cameras, his life proved that the most valuable treasures aren't the ones you show the world. They're the ones you fight to keep safe. And that's why his story still lingers, because it wasn't just about fame, but about strength, privacy, and the courage to live on his own terms. If you want to keep uncovering the real stories and hidden sides of the stars you thought you knew, hit that like button, drop a comment, share this video, and don't forget to subscribe. The next story might just shake you even more, and you won't want to miss it.